And this is why I don't want sat nav in my car. Overdue Doctor Who review time, and this one, as per usual, is brought to you by the Radio vs. the Martians podcast, hosted by Mike Gillis and Casey Dorn, discusses all manner of wonderful pop culture geekery, TVs, movies, comics, wrestling even sometimes. They'll talk about Ghostbusters, they'll talk about Game of Thrones, they'll talk about Star Wars, they'll talk about Batman, they will absolutely talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger in every movie he's ever made, good and bad. Radio vs. the Martians. Great guests, great topics. Give it a listen at radioversusthemartians.com or wherever you get your podcasts. So, two-parter time for Season 4, which gives us the Sontaran two-parter. And this one, I've always enjoyed. I think I actually liked it better this time than I did previously, which is nice when that happens. Because these revisits, like, they can honestly go any direction sometimes. Sometimes I see something I liked previously, and I end up, like, finding little things that I'm like, oh, or things that I realized didn't age great if it's a particularly old episode. Sometimes I'll watch something that I really didn't like and find maybe bits that are okay, but for the most part, it's like, more often than not, it just kind of reaffirms whatever opinion I already have, but it's nice to see something that I already liked and go, I like this even a little better. So, boy, where do we begin? Well, the Sontarans being back, that's really cool. That's just really nice. I think the Sontarans are one of the better updated creatures, both in terms of the design and certainly in terms of the story. I'll probably bring this up eventually when Strax gets introduced a bit down the line, but I kind of wish we could get a serious Sontaran story again because they are pretty effective villains in this. The guy who plays the General Stahl, something like that. I should have double-checked that. Stahl the Undefeated. What if you do get defeated? What are they going to call you then? Stahl the sometimes defeated, but never mind. No, not so defeated anymore. I should have looked this stuff up. Man, I'm lazy, and it shows. Anyways, I like that they re-emphasize their diminutive size. I'm not sure they needed to tint the armor blue, but the armor looks pretty good. The design on the makeup is great because it's incredibly true to the original design. It's just refined with better techniques. And the performances are phenomenal from the lead Sontaran. So that's the General, and that is Score, who is played by the same actor who would later play Strax. Here playing a Sontaran straight as opposed to more for laughs. But I like their military approach to things. I like the way that the Doctor's able to wind them up by accusing them of cowardice, by just not taking them seriously. It's one of the things that I wish would happen more often when the Doctor encounters villains that he's run into before. More often than not, it just ends up being a Doctor, we meet again, or for the Doctor's like, oh, it's this, we're in trouble kind of thing. But I like the Doctor just knowing how to wind somebody up, and it's done really well here. And maybe part of that is because the Sontarans lend themselves to that a bit more. I mean, you can't really, it's hard to wind up a Dalek or a Cyberman. You can stall them a little, but you can't quite get under their skin in the same way that you can with, say, a Sontaran, because Sontarans have pride. Man, do they have pride. But you know what was the big thing that actually worked way better for me in this, and before I kind of considered a flaw of the story? Ratigan. He worked surprisingly well for me here. And I think the thing is I keyed in much more this viewing on his youth. And that is what makes the character work. Because had he been a more mature or adult character being manipulated by the Sontarans, he would just be... he'd be like a Captain Planet villain, basically. But to feed into the arrogance of intelligent youth. And this whole thing where, like, he gets excited at having helped kill people because to him, it's still all largely hypothetical. It's all largely theoretical because he's smart enough to imagine and understand these things, but he lacks the life experience to ground so much of what he's doing or getting himself involved in. And sort of that fact gets thrown in his face very harshly, which kind of turns him around and gives him his redemption moment at the end. I also like I like the whole thing with the Doctor. You know, he knows how to defeat the Sontarans, but he has to go himself to activate it because as he tells Donna and Martha, I have to give them the choice. And it made me flash back to Boomtown and Eccleston's Doctor talking to that one remaining Slitheen and how, you know, this is how you live with yourself. Every now and then you let one go. And I flash back to that because this is how the Doctor lives with himself. He gives them the choice to stop explicitly. And if they don't, then he'll do what he has to do. But he can't just leap to that. Then he couldn't live with himself. End result is still the same more often than not, but that is how he moves forward. I like that. I mentioned Martha, so Martha's back, and that's kind of cool. I feel like they could have done with more time with her away, and I don't say that being like I regret having her back. No, she's good. She's solid in this, and it's just that she wasn't gone long enough for me to miss her yet. I mean, this is only. So, let me think here. So, it would have been the Christmas special, Partners in Crime. So, she's only been gone for 4 stories. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think a little more time would have benefited and made the return feel better. I actually kind of like the guy who's in charge of unit. The guy's doing his best, obviously, but he's also completely out of his league. But not in a way that feels disrespectful or mocking of who he is and, you know, his military background. I mean, the Doctor has a kind of a low opinion of him related to that. But I don't feel like the show is particularly mocking of him. And he's even right a few times or has some good ideas or some good points every now and then. So that's kind of nice. Donna is great. Oh, she clocks the Sontaran back of the neck. And, we get Wilf. We get more time with, like, Donna's family. Normally I complain about the domestic stuff with the families. But first of all, when we get Donna back home, we get Wilf. And, yes. I will always want more Wilf. He's so good. He's so good with Donna. He's good with the Doctor. And actually, even Donna's mother, who's a little bit irritating. She's a little bit reminiscent of Jackie in some ways. But I don't know. I think it's just because she's counterbalanced by Wilf that she didn't even bug me all that much. But I love having them back even for like little bits and a few scenes and to help ground the danger of what's happening to London and the world. You keep cutting back to them slowly choking and it makes it much more real. So that works really well. Oh, you know who else I liked? Ross, the unit guy that the Doctor gets paired off with for a little bit. I actually was kind of annoyed that they killed him. I wish they would have kept him around. I would have liked to have him like just be there like next time Unit showed up again. I think that would have been really, really nifty, but for the time that we get him and that the Doctor kind of comes to appreciate him after initially dismissing him as a grunt and then having affection for him and then pointing out to the commander, you know, that's a man whose life you just allowed to die, lose his life for nothing. I think Ross was good stuff for as long as he lasted. And this is just a really solid episode. I mean, it's not top tier. It doesn't have like that extra twist or emotional hook in that like the very best of Doctor Who has, but it's in the upper range of stuff that is missing that, because something can be missing those sort of like little extra, oh, that's the best kind, stuff that really puts it over the top and still be quite good. And I feel like this two-parter is in the upper tier of that kind of story. It lacks the little extra something to make it an all-time classic, but what it does really well, and I really enjoy it. Yeah, I have fun with this one. Oh, and Donna, super temp. I love that they find ways that her very mundane experiences let her figure stuff out. I love Donna so much. In any case, first two-parter of Series 4. You've seen it? What do you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Hit the like button while you're there. That's driving the algorithm these days, so far as I can tell. Plus, subscribing. Wouldn't mind that. Patreon support. Would love that. But there's merch. There's social media links. There's all, in the description. Ton of stuff. Click on it. Or don't. You don't have to. Because at the end of the day, you're the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.